Hello wonderful people of the internet, and welcome to another tutorial. Today I have a really exciting tutorial for you guys. I know you guys are going to love it. I'm going to quickly show you. Now recently I made this this is one of my projects that I made, and I posted it on Instagram, and I've had a lot of people message me and ask me about this. Can you make it? And though I haven't made this exact thing here, I've made something very similar, and this is it. So this is what we're going to be making today. It's a complete tutorial, so we're going to be going through modeling, setting up the scene, materials, and final render. Nothing will be skipped, so don't worry about that. There's no time lapses. So as you can see here on the side is the final result. Now also, I'd like to thank my Patreons. You can see listed here. Thank you for supporting me, and if you do become a patron, I will be listing your name on some of my videos from time to time. And yeah, if you guys have not checked out my Patreon, that'll be in the link below. I make a lot of exclusive content on there, and all of these models and things that I make, these projects on YouTube, they'll go onto there if you guys want to look at them and break them down. So I do make them available for my Patreons. I guess without wasting any more time, let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so for a new scene open up in Blender, go ahead, hit A to select everything, and then X and delete. Then what we're going to do is go Shift A. We're going to go to our mesh options here. We're going to add in a UV sphere, and then go to your front orthographic view by hitting 1 on your number pad. Tab into edit mode, or you can just manually come here if you want. Hit Z, go into wireframe, and then double A to deselect these vertices. Then hit B and just drag here to box select these bottom vertices, and then go X and delete these vertices. With this done, tab out of edit mode, then go SZ.5 and hit enter, and then go Control A and apply the scale. So this is going to be the dome of our ship. Then what we're going to do is, holding in Shift and Alt, we're going to click on this bottom row of vertices. Then we're going to go Shift D and then go ES just to scale them out like so. Then we're going to hit Control L, and that's going to select all of those vertices. Then we're going to go EZ and just extrude it up a little bit like so. With that done, we're going to go Control R to add a loop cut on top of here, and then Control R to add a loop cut at the bottom here. Holding in Shift and Alt, we're going to click on this top row of vertices, so we have both of these selected, like so. Then we're going to go S, Z, and just scale up, just to round this out a little bit. And then we're going to go Control R in here, add in a loop, and then go Alt S and just expand it out, like that. Okay, so that's what we've created just there. And then what we're going to do is select another row of vertices with Shift, Alt, and Shift, and just click on there. Then go Shift D, Z, and just bring it down to here, so to the bottom. And then we're going to go ES to extrude out and scale. And then we're going to go EZ to scale it down a bit, and then S just to move it out to here. And then we're going to go ES to scale it out, and then GZ and just bring this down a bit. So we're creating just the main part of this flying disc. And if you hit double G and you've gone out too much, you can just slide along the edge loop. So I'm going to go to something like this. Then I'm going to go EZ and extrude it down a tiny little bit, and then go S just to scale it out, and then EZ and then bring it down, and then S to scale. And then we're going to go ES just to scale it in one more time. GZ, bring that down. So we're just creating the body of our saucer here. Something like this. Go Control R if you need to and add in some more geometry. And we're just making a disc shape. ES to scale it in again. GZ, just bring it down. So you can see where we're getting at. And then what I'm going to do is go back to my solid view so you guys can see a little bit better. Then I'm going to go ES and scale it in one more time. And then I'm going to go Control plus to grow the selection. And then I'm going to go EZ and extrude this up like so. And then I can come here, go Control R to add in a loop cut, double G to slide it to here, and then go GZ and just bring that down a little bit. And then holding in Shift and Alt, select this row of vertices as well, and then we're going to go E and just extrude this down a little bit. And then you can come here, select these vertices here, and go X and just delete those vertices. And you can grab this and just go S and scale it a little bit smaller. Just like that. And you don't have to close it or anything because we're not going to be seeing that. So let's tab out of edit mode, and let's go to our modifiers tab here, add a modifier. We're going to add in a subdivision surface modifier. And you can see here things are looking a little bit messy. And if this ever happens, what you can do is just tab into edit mode, hit A to select everything. And if you go Alt N, you can go to recalculate outside, and it should fix up those normal issues. I'm not sure why Blender does this, but I think it is a bug. I've seen it happen a few times. So just go ahead and do that if you get that issue. Then you can go to object and just shade smooth. So here we have a nice looking little saucer. You can always tab into edit mode if you want. Just Control L if you want to select any sort of geometry. So just hit a vertex here, go Control L, and then go G, Z, and I might just move this up a little bit like that. So just mess around with it till it all makes sense. I might grab this dome, hit one of these vertices, go Control L, and just scale that up as well. Because things look a little bit different with subdivision on. And you can hit this little button here, and that's going to make it look nicer in the edit viewport. I kind of just like doing that. Okay, so that is looking really awesome. So let's quickly model the little thingamajig that's going to come out and push our button. So I might just click on this thing again just to disable it. So what we're going to do to make our little pressing button thingy, it comes down, is we're going to go Shift Alt and just select a row of vertices here. And I'm currently in Edge Select. You can use Vertices Select, it doesn't really matter. Then go Shift D, right click to let go, and then go G, Z, just bring that down a little bit, and then go S to scale. Like so. And then you can go E to extrude it down. Like that, and then hit F to fill it in. And then you can go E, Z, and just scale it in a little bit. And then E, Z one more time. Then you can go Control L and go G, Z, and just bring this down for a little bit down to here. And you just might go S to scale it up. So depending on how big you want your button to be, you can scale this around. So I'm just going to go something like that. Then I'm going to select the top row of vertices, go ES to scale them in, and then ES to scale them in one more time. And then you can go Control R to add in some geometry here. So I'm going to go here and Control R, double G, and just slide in a loop over here. Then you can also go Shift Alt to select these vertices here, and go E, Z, and just extrude them up a little bit, and then one more time E, Z, and extrude them up. And then we're going to go one more time E and Z, extrude up to here. So we're just going to go up to there and leave it at that. Go Control L to select all of this geometry, and then go Z and go to wireframe, and we just want to go G, Z, and move this guy up into our ship so you can't see it, or just so it's just up in there like that, so you can just barely see it. Okay, so that is the button done. Let's quickly add the shape keys to it. So what we're going to do is click on our object data properties here. We're going to go to our shape keys, hit the little plus sign here, and then we're going to hit it one more time. That's going to create our first shape key. So I'm going to call this one press button, because that's what it's doing. And we're going to grab the value here. We're going to slide it all the way to a value of 1. Tab into edit mode. And now, whatever we do in here will differentiate between our bases here, which is the first one. And that's going to kind of make like this shape key animation. So let's just tab into, hit Z, go into wireframe. Then we're going to select this inner button part, go Control L to select all of that geometry. And we're going to go G, Z, and bring it down. Now I'm going to bring it down to about here. Okay, and I always bring it out a little bit more than too little, because when you slide this slider later on to animate it, you can always decrease the value amount if you don't want to go out too far. So always do a little bit more than too little when you do shape keys. So I'm going to go just something like this. Okay, doesn't have to be exactly, but roughly in that ballpark will work. And then you go Shift Alt, select these top row vertices, go G, Z, and just slide them all the way back up in there, just as long as they're embedded in the ship. So tab out of edit mode, just go to object and also shade smooth if you still don't have everything smooth. And now if you go to this value here on the press button, if you bring it in, there it goes in. And if you bring it to a value of 1, it goes all the way to here. So that's a simple little way to make this button. So let's get into our materials. Oh, wait a second. We can't get into our materials yet because we haven't modeled the button. What am I saying? Okay, so let's grab the ship, go G, Z, just bring it up in our scene. There for now. Go Shift A, add in a mesh geometry. Then go S8 to scale it up. And then we're going to go Shift A, we're going to add in a circle. Tab into edit mode, and we're going to go S to scale up a little bit more. Then ES to scale it in. Control L to select all of this geometry, and then EZ and scale it up. And you can just bring this whole thing in a little bit. And then we're going to tab into our modifiers here. We're going to give it a bevel. And we're also going to go and make it the limit method angle and decrease this bevel size here. Something like that. And give it some more segments. And then you can also add on top of that a subdivision surface. And just go to object and enable shade smooth. So now we have the beginning of this thing here. I'm going to tab into edit mode again. Then go Shift A. I'm going to add in a UV sphere. And then I'm going to go SZ and just scale it like this. And then go S to scale it up so it fits in there like a button. And with this guy, I'm going to go P and I'm going to separate it by selection. Tab out of edit mode. And then with this one, we just want to get rid of that bevel modifier. Okay, so it's now its own separate object. And you can tab into edit mode if you want and get rid of this unnecessary geometry in the bottom. And grab this bottom row of vertices and go E, Z and just extrude that down. So here is a button. If it's too, just go to shade smooth quickly. If it's too domey, what you can do is grab this top vertice, click on this proportional editing, come down and make it sphere. And then go G, Z, and just kind of bring this guy down a bit. If you have to, I might just do that. Okay, just make your button look however you want. Okay, I might just leave it at that. Just one more little tweak, I can't help myself, just like that. Okay, I'm gonna leave it now, it's fine the way it is. So this button is gonna get pressed by our ship. Now, one of the issues we'll have when it does go in is we'll kind of see it intersecting, we'll kind of see the floor intersecting here in the corner. So what we want to do is just go Shift A, we're going to add in a cylinder, just scale it up to about the same size as the width or diameter as the button. Grab our floor plane here, go to Boolean, just click on a little eyedropper, select this guy here, and then we want to just apply it, and then we can grab this guy here and X and delete. So now if we bring that down, we can see there's nothing underneath it. So if we just tab into edit mode of this guy, go into wireframe and just go Shift Alt and just select this row of vertices and go E, Z and just bring them down like that, and then F to fill them. Okay, I didn't select all of them, so just go up, sorry, like that, and then go E, Z and bring them down, and then F to fill it in. So now if we do bring this down, it's gonna look better. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So we have our button that we can animate. We have this little dude, flying saucer thingy that we can have the value here we can play with. So I think it's safe to say we can get into the materials, animation. What should I do first? Okay, I think we'll probably just do the animation first and then do the materials and lighting. Okay, so let's start by adding in a camera. First of all, so I'm gonna go Shift A, I'm gonna go and add in a camera. Then I'm gonna, with my camera selected, hit 0 to go into my camera view, and then G, middle mouse wheel, and just pull back and zoom out. So you can go ahead, move your camera, place it wherever you want in your scene, as long as it's roughly like at a 45 to the UFO. You can also go to output settings and then go 1920, hit enter, and go to your camera settings here, and we're gonna make the focal length 95, and hit enter. And now if you go into camera view, you're gonna see this. So we just wanna hit G, pull back, and what we want to be able to see is when this thing presses down on a little button, we do want to be able to see it, so we don't want it to be too much of an angle. So what you can do when you're in your camera view is go double R just to kind of rotate your camera, so rotate it up a little bit more, and then go G, Z and just bring it down, and just keep doing that till your camera can kind of see that foot if it should come out. So if we grab this guy here, go to the object properties and just increase that value, you should clearly be able to see this. Okay, that's really good. You can grab this plane, scale it up as much. Okay, just tab into edit mode with this plane selected. Select the 4 vertices in the corners and then go ES and just scale them out. Go to camera view, just scale them out as much as you have to so you don't see them. Okay, like that. And why is it doing this? Oh, okay, so what I did, I actually had those vertices still selected. Oops. Just undo that. Select these 4 ones in the corner and then go ES. Okay, just so they're our scene, we can see our scene. Just so we don't see our world background. Okay, tab out of edit mode. Okay, that's really good. So what we can do now is grab this UFO. We can go G, X and move it off to the side here. And on frame 1, we're going to go I and insert a location, and go I and insert a rotation keyframe. That's very important. Drag this up to give us a bit more space. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to something like frame 40. So let's just see how long that'll be. A few seconds. So, okay, so maybe to frame 50. And on frame 50, we're going to go G, X, and move this guy over our button. Doesn't have to be exact, just roughly over it at about here, and go I, insert a location, I, and insert a rotation. But what we want to do is just rotate it at a little bit of an offset like this, then go I and just insert a rotation on frame 50. So it's going to look like this. Okay, so let's look for our camera view. It's going to look like this. And then what we want to do is come to frame 70, and frame 70 we want to go R like this and go I, insert a location, I, and insert a rotation. So we should see this. Just a little bit of a rotation. So it comes in like this, it stops, but as it's sitting there, it's rotating a little bit. I might make that rotation a little bit less. So go I, insert a rotation key again. So just try it till it looks right. Let's have a look at that in our camera viewport. Comes into our scene, kind of rotates a little bit, and maybe I'll highlight this keyframe here, go Shift D, drag it to frame 100. So in frame 100, between 70 and 100, that's when that button is going to get pressed. So we'll just kind of go to the middle here and just go G, Z, bring it down a little bit. Go I and insert a location, and then also just go to your front view, R, and just rotate it a little bit. Go I and insert a rotation. So as it's sitting here, it's not just standing perfectly still. So let's have a look at that. Should see this. Okay, so let's go to our object properties, and we want to take this button value here, and let's go to frame 75. And on frame 75, with a value of 0, we're going to hit I over here. With this press button value selected, just hover over this value at 0 and hit I. That's going to insert a keyframe, and then what we're going to do is drag it to frame 82. And on frame 82, we're going to drag this all the way in our front orthographic view till we see it touching that button. And then we're going to go I and insert a keyframe on that. And then drag it to frame 90. And on frame 90, we're going to drag it all the way to 1. Well, not quite all the way, but just so it is touching the floor of our world space here, which is this red line. And we're going to go I and insert a keyframe on that value of 0.9 on frame 90. So we should see this. Comes down. What we want to do is grab this button here, and we want to make it come to frame 80 or frame 82 just before this button actually hits it, and we want to go I and insert a location key on this button. And then we want to go to frame, just go into wireframe, wherever that guy kind of stops on that red line, which is going to be frame 90 or frame 86, and we're going to go G, Z, and bring it down to here, and then go I and insert a location. So we should see this. Like that, it presses it down, and then we're going to grab this first keyframe here by highlighting it, go Shift D and just drag it to frame 100. So the button should pop up. Okay, but at the same time we want to grab this guy, and on frame 90 was the last keyframe we inserted, but then we want to go up to frame 95, and in frame 95 we're going to drag this guy back to 0 and hit I. So it's going to also pop up. Okay, so let's grab the button again, and with the button let's move this keyframe out a little bit more in the end to 110, like that. So let's go into our camera view, go into solid, and let's play this from the beginning, drag it forward, and let's have a look. So it comes here, and then it presses down, and it comes up. And then our UFO, which is just standing here, we're gonna just select both of these keyframes on frame 100 by clicking here and dragging them, and go Shift D, drag them to 120, so it's gonna just be standing there till 120. And then our UFO is going to zoom off. Just go to frame 160, and on frame 160 go G, X, and just move it over here to the side out of your camera view, and go I and insert a location, and go I and insert a rotation. Well, let's have a look at that. So we should see this. Comes in, presses down, and then it goes off. And you can add in a little bit of rotation as it's kind of moving. So maybe I'll come here to frame 140 and just double tap R just to give it a little bit of rotation, and go I and insert a rotation key, just so it's not perfectly straight. Let's go into camera. Let's see what that looks like that. Just a little bit of detail. Now, this definitely could do a lot more work. You could add in a lot more realism to it with the animation. I'm just keeping things really basic, and that looks really good to me. So let's get into our lighting and materials. Okay, so to get into our lighting and materials, let's go to our render settings first of all. We want to make sure we're in the render EV engine. And we also want to enable ambient occlusion, that's important. And then most importantly is screen space reflections. But before you go any further and you just leave this, you want to go click on this and make sure you enable refraction, because we're going to be using a glass material. We're not going to get the results you want if we don't enable refraction. So that's really important. And then you don't have to do this part, but I recommend it. If you go to your world settings and you click on this little tab here, you can go to your environment textures, and you can go to something like hdrhaven.com, where you can download free HDRIs that don't cost anything. There's quite a few places, so just look for a HDRI on the internet, download one. I've got some of my own personal ones here that I'm going to use, so I'm just going to go and get one of them. You don't have to do this part. I would recommend you you do it though. It'll really help with your lighting, especially when we're doing like a glass material. And you can come here to the strength and just set it to 2.3 like that and leave it at that. But what we can also do is go Shift A, go to our lights, and we're going to add in an area light. We're going to go G, Z, bring it up to here. Then we'll go to our light settings. We're going to increase the size to 5, so type in 5. And we're going to type in the power 600 and hit enter. And if you guys followed along with me and everything is to the same scale, this 600 should be more than enough to light your scene. Also go R and just rotate a little bit to the angle and move it forward towards the camera. So let's tab into our camera view. Let's go Z and go into rendered and see what that looks like. Okay, that looks really good. So let's start with some of our basic materials. So I'm just going to bring my scene into where I can kind of see most of everything in the scene, like about 86 works good. And then I'm going to select my little UFO here, and I'm going to go to my shading view here. Just make sure you're in the camera view here as well, and then go Z rendered. That's it. And with this UFO here, we're going to go new and create our first material, which is going to be a metallic material, and that's going to be by default applied to everything, but don't worry about that. And I'm going to make mine kind of like a little bit of a pinkish kind of material. I really like that look. I'm just going to call this ship body. Ship body, and hit enter. And then I'm going to go to my materials tab here. I'm going to hit plus to create a new material, go new. Then I'm going to come over here on my principled BSDF shader. I'm going to drag the transmission value all the way up to 1. And let's just apply this. So tab into edit mode, hit one of these vertices on the glass dome, go Control L to select all of it, and then assign that new material, and let's just call it glass. Okay, or glass dome is what I'm going to call it. And if you want to see a transmission material, what you need to do is also just bring the roughness down a little bit, that'll help. And you can come here to the glass material and go down, and you have to go to your settings and make sure you set this guy here to alpha hashed and the bottom one to alpha hashed as well. Okay, so that's going to help things. And you can also make this kind of more like a pinkish kind of glass, which is what I did for mine. Just like that. That looks really cool. I really like the look of that. You can bring the roughness down more if you want, or you can bring it up. I like my glass a little bit hazy. And yeah, that's looking good. So with that done, let's go up here, add a new material, go new, and let's just call this one button. And we're going to go tab into edit mode, select any one of these vertices on the button, go Control L, or not the button presser, and then go assign. And with this one, we're just going to leave it as it is, but I'm going to bring the roughness on it up a little bit. And we're also going to give it a little bit of subsurface scatter, and make the color slightly pinkish, like that. Tab out of edit mode, so now it has this little button pusher thingy here. And I believe that's most of the material. So one thing I did do as well, I just grabbed this loop here, go Control L, so this little ring around the glass, I'll just disable that, this guy. And we're going to add a material for that, so let's hit a little plus, go new, and just call it ring. And let's make this guy metallic, but just make sure you assign that as well. And let's make this a bit of a darker purple, like this. And I'm going to make it a little more rough and bring the metallic down a little bit, just so we have something that looks like that. And then we can grab our world floor here and go new. And I like to give it a complementary color, and orange to me is just a really nice complementary color to purple. So I'm going to go with an orange like this, and I'm going to bring the roughness down a little bit and maybe increase the metallic. Let's see what that looks like, just a tiny little bit. Now just leave the metallic and just bring the roughness down, just so you get a little bit of reflection in your scene, but not too much, because we do have that HDRI, which really helps. But I'm just going to go with, yeah, 0.15. It's totally up to you, personal preference. There's no right or wrong really. And then I'm going to grab this guy here, and then I'm going to hit plus to create a new material. And I'll maybe make this one more like a bit of a darker orange, like that. And then of course I'm going to grab the button, go new, and what kind of color would you use? Obviously red, because in every cartoon buttons are usually red. Okay, and then let's just come here, bring the roughness down on that button, come to the subsurface scatter, increase that a little bit, and make the subsurface color like a bit of a pinkish kind of color, maybe even a little bit more orangey, just something like that. So let's go into our layout. Let's just see what that looks like. So it comes, well, let's just play our animation. So this is what it's going to look like. It comes in here. It's going to look a lot better once it's rendered, and then it goes off. And also one thing we should do is just cut this, because the 250 frames is too long. So I'm going to take this to frame 160 or 170 even. And I think that would be a good place. So let's just come to our end frames here and go 170 and hit enter. And let's see what that looks like, if that works. So go to frame 1 and let's just play that. Because remember, this is going to be a loopable animation. So it comes into our scene, it goes off, and it's just going to keep looping. That looks pretty cool. What I also might do is just grab this camera, double tap R, and just rotate it down a little bit more. So this is a little bit more centered. Okay, that is looking really awesome. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and save it. You should do the same. I'm just going to call it something. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how we can render this out. So I'm just going to quickly go back into solid view. If you want to render this out as an animation, go to your output settings here. What you want to do is go down to this output folder, click on the little folder, go to your desktop or wherever you want to save the video out, go accept. Go to your file format, make it an FFmpeg, go to your encoding, make the container an MP4peg, and then you can go to medium quality, click on the output quality and make it perceptually lossless. And then just go file, save, just in case. And now if you, I think, did I miss anything here? Yeah, we made the container an MP4peg, that's good. Okay, so now if you go to render and you go render animation, this is going to render out. But you guys already saw that in the intro to this video, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Check out some of my other content. And if you want these scene files, like I said, they're available on Patreon. And thanks to those of you who have supported me on Patreon thus far. I'm going to be making a lot of cool stuff in there as well. See you guys later.